part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, thanks for downloading the Chase Smith Podcast, proudly part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Before we get to the show is all about the Batman, the movie that was just released last week. Spoiler warning, if you have not watched the movie, you might not want to listen to this pod. Maybe come back to it once you check it out. It's going to be on HBO Max in April. It's in theaters now. But if you have listened or watched the movie and you want to listen to some thoughts, listen to my thoughts, listen to having Jett Ramey on a podcast is incredible. He is the leading Batman website on film and all news. And then to talk to my friend Jonathan Tyler Patrick about Batman is always fun. And so we had a ton of fun talking about the movie. Hope you guys enjoy. And I'm excited over the next couple weeks with the Chase Smith Podcast. I'm dropping a mini series on podcasting itself. It's going to be talking about podcasting, about the marketing effect of podcasting, the lasting effect of podcasting, the reach of podcasting, all different types of stuff, all different types of podcasting professionals. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And again, just kind of leaning into this stuff that's not really about sports. Obviously I love sports. I could talk about sports all day, but with the Browns out of season, and the Cavs not really in the playoffs yet, although they're looking like they're going to make it, I want to spend just a few episodes venturing out of the sports realm. And I want to talk about Batman. I love talking Batman. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the episode. It's a ton of fun. And thanks for listening. Let's get to the show. Thank you for downloading the Chase Smith Podcast, proudly part of the Press Play Podcast Network. In this episode, I interview the founder of BatmanOnFilm.com and Batman insider Jett Ramey. We're also joined by Tyler Patrick of the Krypton Report. We give our thoughts on the new Batman movie, where it ranks all time. We dive into the PG-13 R conversation, talk about future projects and sequels. Let's get it! Here with me, he is the founder of BatmanOnFilm.com, the leading Batman news site, and Batman insider Jett Ramey. Bill, thanks for joining the show, man.
Glad to be here.
And also joining us to talk all things Batman, he's the co-host of the newest show on the Press Play Podcast Network, the Krypton Report. Tyler Patrick, JTP, what's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so last week, a new Batman on film movie was released in theaters, which, can we just take a moment just to be grateful that we have movies in theaters again, Bill? Like, we're back in theaters. Like, Oh my gosh, the smell of popcorn, the excitement of trailers. How was your movie going experience?
It was good. I think the last, I went and saw Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
I did see Tenet. I think that's been about it.
Oh, that was like when they were putting movies back in theater.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay.
Yeah. I saw Tenet and there was hardly anybody in there, so it was kind of a moot point. But yeah, I mean, the first time I saw it was at a press screening, and there was only like 20 people in there because it was just press. So the first time I saw it with an audience was, they did those two fan screenings on Tuesday and Wednesday prior to the release date, and I went on Wednesday with my two sons. And they're not little, so don't freak out because they don't bring kids to see the Batman.
Well, I took my 7-year-old.
Mine I took 24 and a 20-year-old. So I went to that. That was the first time I saw it with the audience. And so that was
March
cool.
2nd. Wait, when did you first see this? Like, how soon did you get
the 25th?
Oh, wow. So
the 25th. That was
like,
that's a Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
It's about a week early. Yeah,
a week early. Yeah.
February, short month.
Yeah.
And then I saw it the next week. Then I saw it last weekend at the Batman on Film. We had a big watch party here in Dallas area, and that was and I'm seeing it this coming Friday at IMAX. So yeah, I've seen it 3 times so far.
Nice. Ty, how was your movie going experience, man? Like, how was being back in the theater?
It was great. I've been a couple of times since they reopened a small theater here near us. It's kind of been, I've taken Solomon to see Uncharted. We all saw Spider-Man. So I've been a few times to the theater. The first time we saw Batman, my wife and I, on Thursday, and it was about half full. and it wasn't IMAX because we tried to we saw it at 7:30 because of her work schedule. The second time when I went, it was a Sunday, packed, IMAX, and the only thing was they didn't have the air turned up enough. So after a while, it started to get really warm.
It was like mid 70s here in Central Ohio, Bill.
Like
was
it threw
very
everybody.
warm.
Okay.
It threw everybody for a loop. So like they didn't have the air cranked where it should be. So like the room started to get warm, and it was just like towards the end of the movie, everybody's like, you can kind of hear
like
people
a Riddler
like
scheme. Want to get you in a 3-hour movie and turn
slowly turn the heat up.
Right.
So
no, I don't know what it is about going to the movies. I love the event of everything. I love the smell.
Mhm.
I love hearing the fanfare. I love seeing the lights dim. It is so much fun, and it doesn't take much for me to just enjoy watching something on a screen that's absurdly large, drinking a equally absurdly large drink, and just like all the popcorn. Like, I love everything about it. I don't know if Black Widow or The Green Knight was the first movie we saw back after COVID, but I stepped into the lot. I got like emotional. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So let's talk about Batman, because Batman is something that we all love. We all enjoy talking about. Bill has this whole secondary career with this Batman, which is just so cool to be talking to you. Ty, me and you talk about Batman all the time.
It's a foundation of our friendship.
Bill, where does this rank among your Batman on film movies?
You know, going in, I love the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, I love it. I love Batman 89.
Yes.
And Batman Begins is my favorite Batman movie. But I think, and of course, the Dark Knight is just a great, maybe the greatest comic book based movie, period.
Mm-hmm.
The Batman it's up there. It's up there with Batman Begins for me. This is like if Matt Reeves said, okay, what do you like to see in a Batman movie? I would tell him, and then he made that movie. I mean, the detective thing, the grounded stuff, the real, keep it realistic as much as you can. I loved it. And Pattinson was great. Yeah, it's just great.
Was talking with Tyler pre-show, which, by the way, spoiler warning and alert, we're going to be talking about things that happen in the movie, things that, will, if you haven't seen them, Batman, stop listening, because we're going to be hitting on things that will spoil the movie for you. Yeah, Bill, Ty and I were talking about that pre-show, that it does seem like they got around the table and said, what are the absolute coolest, best things that Batman fans want to see in a film? And then they put that in this film. And I think almost sometimes at the expense of maybe sometimes logic or a couple like story cinema, like, hey, like, did that make sense? But it did seem like, I think, Ty, you said like Batman's greatest hits. How did you work that?
I said it feels like they sat down and they're like, okay, what do we like in Batman movies? And they took elements from all the different movies, put them in a blender, and made this like greatest hits Batman movie. So when you watch it, because so many times do we watch our heroes and we're like, okay, that's this version or that version. It's so rare to say something that feels like that's the truest to the character. And it's kind of how I feel about Superman and Lois. Watching his Superman, I'm like, they took the best of the different actors and portrayals of the character and made this Superman. And I feel like that's what we're getting with Matt Reeves, the Batman. Like, there's little things here that harken back to different Batman times, movies, and it's like Matt Reeves gets it.
And you can tell he's a Batman fan.
Mm-hmm.
He is clearly, that was evident watching this movie, and it was great, to have that aspect of the filmmaker.
Was very immersive. And I think with a 3-hour movie, you have to make it immersive and almost have Gotham as like its own character. You really felt like Gotham was its own thing here. You get to see and feel. It's very wet. The weather is like it's always raining. It's always dark. And you almost, okay, so I think you're obviously experiencing the movie through Bruce Wayne, who during the film says he's become nocturnal because he's out a lot, and you almost feel like you kind of dive down there with Pattinson as the movie goes on, because it's so dark and it's so I thought it was super disturbing. I don't know, it wasn't like a feel good, like, oh, this is great. Jett, you talked about don't bring your kids. What would this look like if it was rated R? This was PG-13, which looking back,
they pushed the limit on that,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I'm always a proponent of excuse me, Batman being PG-13. I just think, with R, I mean, you got it. You pushed the limit. You got it as dark as you wanted it, and you didn't really, you didn't knock off a huge audience. If you make it R, that's quite a few people. I think it was more intense than Dark Knight, but it's not. It wasn't Joker level intense.
I don't know.
Because Joker, I just didn't feel like Joker. I love Joker, but you never felt good in that movie.
No.
I'll say the third act really, with Pattinson's arc and him completing that arc in the third act, there was some good Batman feeling vibes in that third act.
Yes.
And
so
that was the payoff.
Your third act is after the Riddler turns himself in.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah.
Ty, feel good Batman movie. Like did you take Solomon the first time or second time?
Second time. I always, anytime there's a
you're
movie,
like, I'm gonna bring my 7-year-old son. I can't.
well, he's already so hyped from the trailers. He's already like, they got the toys, like they're, and I say there because my 5-year-old daughter's in and she wants to watch it. I'm gonna watch a bridge version on HBO Max with her because she's like, she could probably handle it more than most kids, but he was so into it and excited to see Batman finally on the big screen. This is his first time seeing, Batman on the big screen. But with any of these movies that I'm like questioning, I always see it first, so I know what's up.
Yeah.
And after it was over, he looked at me and he said, "The Riddler was a little too scary at parts, and it was too long, Daddy." that was his, but he's like, "But I loved it." I actually ran into Aaron Benner, a friend of ours, was there. And after the movie, we come out, he asked Solomon, and Solomon said the same thing to him. Like, Riddler was a little scary, and a little too long. And my thing, like what Bill was saying, like, I think it should always be PG-13. You with a property like this, you need to always understand, like, yes, you want to tell a great story, but kids are always going to be interested in this character.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference in a Nolan PG-13 and what we saw with Matt Reeves PG-13. Like this felt like there were things he also wanted to do that he didn't because it wasn't R. Like,
PG-13 is always evolving too. I mean, you go back and you watch a PG-13 movie in the 90s, and then you watch PG-13 now. It's always pushing the limits and changing what a PG-13 movie is.
Dude, I mean, Spider-Man's PG-13. Like, even that is a whole different like conversation than
Jaws is PG. Poltergeist is PG. and I'm saying go back and look at those because those were the movies that Garrett and I got away with watching at Blockbuster.
As someone who was a kid when Jaws came out, I was like 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And there was no PG-13 then. So it was either PG or it went straight to R. I'm not against a Batman film being, or a comic book film being R. I'm not trying to be a prude or anything about Batman. I just think, that 13 to 17-year-old audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I said it on one of our podcasts about when we reviewed it is.
Which one? You can give it a plug. Go for it, man.
Well, we have several. That was in the Batman on Film Social Hour, and we talked about. I said it is PG-13. I think 13 is the key thing there for me. It would depend. Now, my kids, probably my boys back in the day, I took them to see Batman Begins when they were still single digits. So I can't be hypocritical. I think that I would probably, I would strongly consider bringing them if they were that age for this. But this is a notch above, especially Begins, and it's a notch above The Dark Knight.
So I went on Thursday night last week, and he had to have been anywhere from 7 to 9 years old. He was getting up and was like, actively scared, and like he would say, Riddler, no, and Riddler, why are you doing this? Riddler, stop. And it was obviously the youngest in the, like, this was like at a 7 p.m. showing on a Thursday night IMAX.
Yeah.
So he was the only one there. And it kind of, there was also someone who fell asleep in the movie and was snoring. And so twice I had to get up and wake him up on the aisle over. And then he fell
Wow.
asleep 2 more times. Other people had to wake him up. So it was a whole experience. Hey,
Yeah,
well, let's
it
talk about
was.
things that we like about the movie.
Yeah.
So we've talked, it's pretty intense. It's long. Jett, what are some things that you just absolutely love about the movie? We talked about how it was like the best of Batman, like things that we really liked. There are things I liked in it too. Jett, what are some of your favorite things about Matt Reeves' The Batman?
Well, say the whole thing. That would be easy. But I did.
There we go.
I think that, the cast was great. I mean, Reeves really, he knocked the ball out of the park with the casting. Everyone was fantastic. Robert Pattinson was great. The vibe was great. I think the story overall, mainly Pattinson's arc. I mean, he starts out, he's the journal entry he's reading at the beginning is completely different than the one at the end. The two different, that's before and after he kind of, I won't say turns, but he is vengeance, and it's all about what he's doing, and that's all it matters. And even says it in the film, I don't care about anything, anything else. And that payoff where, it starts with when he finds out about his father's going to Falcone, and then he, Alfred's in the hospital, and he has a discussion with Alfred. But the first, Alfred wakes up or almost dying, and the first thing he says is, "You lied to me, Alfred." And then Alfred tells him, and I'm not going to get into details here, but you have to see, and then he says basically, I don't care what happens to me, but I don't want to lose anybody I care about again. And grabs his hand, and at the end he goes from vengeance to he becomes hero. And I think there's so much in that third action piece where he beats the hell out of that Riddler follower.
Yeah.
And then the Riddler follower says, "I'm vengeance," and he's you can tell that he's thinking, this is what I was. And he cuts that cable to keep the people from dying and falls into the water. And that, when he goes to save those people and he reaches out his hand and they're all looking at him, they're scared because that's what he wanted. That was the whole thing, is I want them to be scared of the Batman. And the kid reaches out to him. And then the mayor is kind of a symbolic of that Gotham, he's becoming Gotham is accepting him.
He does,
and he leads them out with that torch, and they are following him.
Very cool scene.
And I was like, "Woo, okay, that was the big payoff."
It was cool to see him go from vengeance to like this symbol, right? Which is a huge part of Nolan's, arc, is he needs to be this symbol. Ty, what are some of your favorite parts from the movie?
I have a quick question for Bill. Having seen it more, because I heard someone say this and I couldn't tell. One of the people, the guy that he fights, the Riddler thug, I heard someone say, "Isn't that the guy from the mayor's?"
Yes.
And then I was like, I don't know, because I'd already seen it my second time and I couldn't tell. And as someone who's seen it more and continues to see it,
someone asked me between that. I didn't pick up the first time, and the second time I did. He has that exchange with Bruce Wayne, and in
the chapel to Mayor's funeral.
Then he ends up becoming a follower of the Riddler, and he's not. It's like he didn't inspire people to do good. It's like it was almost like this is the sort of people that I'm inspired, and he follows this serial killer, and it was such a epiphany for him that started right before, but that was that sealed the deal. And him helping that girl into the helicopter gurney, carrying her was and he puts his hand on her shoulder because he had no.
And she reaches back to him.
Yeah.
Like she was embracing him, not scared of him. Like she was like, it was great.
It was the he has no emotion for anything. In the beginning, he's just this wall. He can't relate to people and show emotion, and that it changed. And I would say even, and Selena Kyle helped that along the way. That's part of the deal as well. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Go ahead, Ty.
Chase. No, I was gonna say because you had asked me what I liked about it.
Mhm.
One, I'm curious, and I would like to see the 4-hour test screen cut.
There was a 4-hour test screen cut.
Yeah,
Oh my
because
God.
just because there's little things in it, like you were talking about, like did things get overlooked? And I'm like, I'm wondering if just certain little beats, because watching the way that Reeves takes his time and he lets the movie breathe, and that this movie, has the noir flavor and it's looked at differently. It's not cut quick. It lets
it's cut quick
play
whenever he
things.
falls from a building and crashes into a bridge, and then he's fine the next scene. Or it cuts quick when he's going in full costume to go to a motorcycle, and all of a sudden he's in a different. It cuts quick then when they need to.
Well, yeah, but like it lets the actors interact in the space.
Yeah, it does.
And I like that because you're so used to, like, in your brain, like, all right, we're gonna cut to this angle because you see it in other movies so much, and this is like, no, we're gonna let them keep talking and moving in the frame.
Yeah.
I loved one thing that my wife loved in this is the weighted boots. That when he walks, you hear him coming, and the scene where he's walking up to the penguin, and you hear she's like, it's like spurs, almost.
It's like a Western. Yeah.
Of like the spurs of him just coming. Like that was something that just that immediate intimidation of just the sound.
And it starts with, you see the Riddler's shoes first too. Like it kind of has that
There's
parallel.
There's a lot of really good parallels between what the Riddler's doing and Batman. And seeing it a second time helped put more pieces together because, a lot of times when you watch a movie for the first time, you're experiencing everything and you're trying to take it all in. And then you got to process, but then seeing a second time, you're picking out those details and working through it. I really enjoyed.
Well, that's a good point. I want to talk about, that's a good point because the movie starts with you're looking through the mask of the Riddler, right? And he sneaks into the mayor's home. And then just a few scenes later, Batman's on the next roof looking into someone else's home. And so there is this kind of like, well, hey, this is, and Jett, you nailed it. This is like who he was. And you realize that he needs to be, I need to be more, right?
Right.
And even the Riddler thought of Batman like it's like a kindred spirit. And they were, he brought him there to Arkham to hang out with him. And so they could watch the city flood together. They were going to be like these buddies.
Yeah.
They were going to be friends.
Yes.
Because the Riddler needs a friend.
That was that scene at Arkham with the Riddler is great because the audience and Batman thinks that the Riddler knows that he's Bruce Wayne. And you see him.
No.
And he stands in the back while he's Bruce Wayne, and then it finally, he says, we got them all. We didn't get the big one. We didn't get Bruce Wayne, but we got the rest of them. And you see Pattinson's eyes, his whole expression changes, and he comes right into the light, right up to him. And it's, that's where he says, you're just a psycho, whatever, you're trash or garbage, and what did you do? But it was just great just to see that scene was so great, especially, you see the camera, he's going, and he says before, with Gordon, I think it's all coming to an end. And he says, what? And he says, the Batman, because he's thinking he knows who I am.
Yeah. And
he's going to reveal it. And then he doesn't. And the Riddler's not as smart as the Riddler thinks he is.
Yeah.
Which he tells Batman, oh, you're not as smart as I thought you were, but he's not either.
Yeah.
I think, my wife said it, that the Riddler was so obsessed with like his hatred for Bruce Wayne that he couldn't see that Bruce Wayne was an option, even though all the pieces and everything he says to Bruce or to Batman about everything was right there. You didn't put together the same thing. Like he has the picture of the Batman. He has the picture of Bruce Wayne, but he is so fixated on Batman is like me.
Yeah. See, Bruce interpreted all that differently.
That was the point. You were supposed to, But
Yes.
there's one other clue before that scene, is that he left a note for the Batman in a fireproof thing. He wouldn't have left a card for Batman if he was killing Bruce Wayne and he knew that Bruce was Batman.
Yes.
So that's the first clue. And then the second is when he says the we part, because then you turn and you're like, wait a minute, he doesn't know, because the way he says Bruce Wayne, he doesn't say it with his lips. So like the camera, because even, Batman looks at the camera like, because he's like, Bruce Wayne, you can't read his lips, but it's the we that you're like, oh. So we as the audience that experience it just like Batman is, where we're like, oh, he doesn't know. Now we're talking, I'll save it. Okay. I'll save it.
All right. I interpret it a little bit differently. I felt like when Bruce Wayne or Batman, like when Alfred opened the bomb that was intended for Bruce Wayne and Batman was still alive and Bruce Wayne was still alive, I felt like he found out then and he said just enough in the jail cell to let Batman know that he knows, but no one else. I think he knows. Anyway, one of the things that I loved the relationship we see with Batman and James Gordon. I wish they would have got a little younger actor for James Gordon. I wish I would have seen both of them kind of come up a little bit, coming of age together. But I loved seeing them. I want to see more of them. I just want to see more of them. I want to know more about their relationship. I could have rested there a little bit. Maybe that's the 4 hours. Maybe it was another hour of just Batman and Gordon running around Gotham. I don't know, but I really enjoyed seeing that. But I like that in the other Batman movies too. So I don't know.
The thing I said about Gordon in this, what's interesting is we only experience Gordon with Batman. So we don't know what Gordon's personal life is like. Is he married? Is he married to Sarah Essen? Is it his second wife? Does he have kids? Like, we don't know anything about Gordon other than what he's doing when he's with Batman, which is fascinating in one point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's upsetting in one, because like,
it's just one movie. They got all these other movies to kind of dive into that.
Right. But it's the experience of experiencing the world with Batman.
Yeah.
Because we are guided with him through the film. We're never, there's only a few scenes with the Riddler that happen outside of happening with Batman.
Yeah.
And then, Catwoman Carmine thing. But most every scene is experienced through Batman Bruce.
Pattinson is almost in every scene, mostly as Batman. And then as a few times as Bruce Wayne. And you're right. It's you experience it through Batman's point of view. And so his point of view is just this, they're already partners. That was great. You could tell that, and they trust each other. And it's like, they're like the only ones each other trust. And even there's, Gordon makes jokes about, I don't even know who you are, man, but he still, you trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was Matt Reeves had talked about the All the President's Men movie, the influence it had, and that was with the detective, the relationship, between, and the partnership between Batman and Gordon, just like the two reporters, they were part of All the President's Men, that doing it together. So I thought it was the most. It's the most we've ever seen in a movie of Batman and Gordon working together like that, ever, even with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, it was like this, almost like also this buddy cop. And there were a lot of influences, right? There was like almost like this horror influence with the Riddler, especially as he's like going around with these killings, kind of like a little Saw thing. There's All the President's Men you mentioned. There's this like buddy cop idea. Then like this natural disaster film at the end, where it says all these really cool kind of genres mixed mashed together. It was a ton of fun. I want to spend a few more moments talking about the cast, because you touched on this, Jett, and the cast was just absolutely brilliant. I thought Colin Farrell I thought the Penguin was just a delight every time he was on screen. It just popped. Selena Kyle, Zoe Kravitz was just kill. I mean, like the supporting cast around Pattinson was just top notch, and really were kind of like these bright, like, oh, this is a good, like, I'm not all like down and depressed and brooding with Batman. And when these other characters came on screen, it was just like a breath of fresh air. I thought they were fantastic. This was, I I don't want to say Colin Farrell's Penguin was my favorite Batman villain I've seen on film, but he was my favorite villain in this movie, and probably third behind Nicholson and Ledger.
He made me hate the Penguin at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the first time after I saw, I was like, I need this Penguin HBO Max series like now.
Yes.
And so now, and yesterday they announced that it's a go. So we should be getting that.
Good.
Probably I would say next year, early next year at some point. I'm looking forward to that. It's set after the Batman, so it's that power vacuum that now Falcone is gone.
It's perfect
to do that. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be like it's going to be like a mobster movie, and I wouldn't doubt that. If there was shenanigans with the Maroney prosecution, and maybe he gets released from prison. Yep, and he ends up coming back to Gotham, and there's this battle. To take the top spot. And I'm just spitballing here. I have no idea, but so I'm looking forward to that. And I loved Jeffrey Wright as Gore. I mean, all of them. Zoe Kravitz I like all of them. And even from the 60s TV show, was up there. You felt you knew more about her than any character in the film, and she was kind of like the heart of the film is the right word to use, but you really,
if you had to pinpoint a character, I would say she's the heart of the film, because she's that driving force of humanity about this is about my friend, this is for my friend, I'm doing this for my friend. So I can totally see that. And
it's like she is, and I'm not a big stickler for quote unquote comic book accuracy, but she's kind of the most comic book accurate Catwoman we've had, maybe, at least the last 30 years of the incarnation of the character, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I look at the 66 characters kind of like in this vacuum because of just where the characters were in the TV show. So like when I start comparing stuff, I always look from 89 on, because I feel like there's like a thread in the comics where you can see similarities, but like the 60s in comic books were such a different time. So
that is true. Historically, it was a different time than it is now, for sure.
Yeah. So the supporting cast was just phenomenal. I mean, even you go through, you got Skarsgård there. I mean, everyone was just.
Turturro was, as Carmine Falcone, was great. I'd run to slap him around the whole time. He's such a smarmy asshole, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and we just got just enough of Andy Serkis to be like, when in the next movies, he's going to be able to do his thing a little bit more. And I know we talked about this at the jump, but just like the city of Gotham as a character itself, like just this whole thing, and it was a ton of fun. Let's take a break. I want to after the break, share a couple of my concerns, maybe have you guys talk me off the ledge a little bit, and then talk about some sequels, because I do have some questions about the movie I want to touch on. But stick around and we'll be right back. Want to take a quick break to tell you about our good friends at Shart.com. Shart.com offers the very best t-shirt frames on the market. It's as simple as that. It's so good, some call it art for your shirt. Shirt art. Shart. Shart.com is perfect for that shirt folded in the back of your drawer that is too sentimental to donate or throw away. Purchase one of these incredible frames ready to hang and display that shirt with pride. Shart's foam inserts and high-quality frames prevent you from having to cut your shirt and will keep your memory safe and beautiful for years to come. It comes fully assembled with turn buttons, real glass sealed in place for safe shirt framing, and two sawtooth hangers nailed in the back of the frame so you can mount your piece of Shart either horizontally or vertically. Shart acts as a great decoration for your home, retail store, office, bar, restaurant, school, gym, shop, man cave, and even studios. It's super simple and easy to set up. Look, I love this so much. I have 5 of them. I really do. I'm telling you, they're fantastic. And partnering with us, now they can offer you the very best prices on the very best t-shirt frames available. Only for the Chase Smith podcast listeners, you can use promo code CHASE to save $5 off an order of the original 11x14 black frame. Limit 1 use per customer. The offer is good through the end of March. Again, that promo code is CHASE at checkout to save $5. Go to Shart.com today to begin your order.
We are excited to announce that we are joining the Press Play Podcast Network. The Krypton Report podcast is dedicated to all things Superman, Supergirl, and the planet Krypton. We discuss movies, TV, game, comics, and all things DC.
So join me, Tyler, with my co-host James and Jania.
So join us as we explore DC's multiverse.
Look for Krypton Report on all social media platforms.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Listen, it is beyond time for you to join a book club. I know you've been thinking about it and everyone's doing it. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
We are back. Bill, Jett, Ramey, BatmanOnFilm.com, Tyler Patrick, Krypton Report, talking all things Batman. Spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie and still haven't turned it off, I feel bad for you. But just a heads up, we're talking spoilers. I want to talk about some concerns I have. I want to, maybe you guys can talk me off the ledge on a couple things, but then I want to talk about sequels and what the future of Batman on film looks like, because there are teasers for future things in this movie, and even some kind of others as well. So here,
Chase, I just want to say this.
go ahead, Simon.
Maybe we'll talk you off a ledge, or maybe we'll just get a squirrel suit with you and we'll just jump off together and just glide.
Yeah, so let's maybe start there. This movie takes place in a span of 6 days, October 31st and November 6th. And I just felt like Bruce Wayne was indestructible, like Bruce Wayne the human. I feel like Batman always kind of is indestructible, so I was okay with that. But in this film, we see him get like smashed like Looney Tunes style into the side of a bridge, roll around, and he's fine the next day. And I just, there are other things I'm like, man.
Well,
like,
is he fine? How is he 100%? He's so obsessed with the Batman that he just continues to go no matter what. So
yeah.
that's my interpretation. And as far as the gliding thing, in other films, he would have landed perfectly.
Yeah.
In this one, it didn't come out all that perfect and all that great. So I kind of thought that just my thing is, yeah, he took a beating more in this film than we've seen him previously. And he kind of shows, I mean, he goes down a couple of times and almost doesn't get back up that last time,
Yeah. Well, and then he has an explosion happen in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And his jaw is still perfect. He's like, there's just things that I know it's a movie and you just kind of have to like accept things.
Chase.
I'm just
Chase,
this dude,
my friend. He's Batman.
I know he's Batman, but like a legit explosion happened in his face that almost killed his butler. I'm sure the kind of same stuff. So I just, and I think because the movie teased, we're going to see wear and tear. Like you see him riding and his hands are all beat up and like bloody and scarred, and like they tease us with that. And then it's just like, man, show me, like, let him miss some teeth near the end of the movie, or just something that, I mean, he's pretty, and he took a huge beating, Jett. You're right. I just wanted to see a little more wear and tear, like we saw on his hands, on his pretty little face. That's all.
I think his back, you see him when he puts the shirt on, his back is scarred. It kind of reminds me of like the Alex Ross. There's an Alex Ross painting.
Yeah.
Batman scarred. He the suit is kind of a representation of how much, because the suit is like, you see the scratches and the marks and the bullet where the bullets hit the armor, and it's they really kind of representation of how much of a beating that Batman is taking. And I also like the fact that he would go out, he was this drifter Bruce Wayne, but he carried the suit in the duffel bag on the motorcycle. So he would, so he would change into Batman. It was like he was becoming Batman in the Batcave and then taking the vehicle into the city. When he was in the city, he would go out, he would do all this incognito stuff and then be where he needed to be. So
no one would see him drive back to his tower. No one would like put things together in the city with cell phones and stuff.
Because it's just a dude on a motorcycle. Like if you notice, like the way we see him mostly on the motorcycle, and then there's only like the scene with the Batmobile, and like a couple times he's in it. I mean, I think Chase also is like, it does have such a grounded feel that you're looking for like that stuff. Like, wait, you've already proven so much to me of how grounded in realism this is. And then you do this. Like I've seen people complain about the bullet shots, like the muzzle, like he's in the, getting shot by the machine guns and fighting, and then gets the shotgun and knocks him out. And I'm like, well, machine guns shoot 22 rounds. I've shot, a 22 rifle machine gun before and at targets, and it does a lot less damage than shooting a double barrel 12 gauge shotgun. So I'm like, to me, getting shot by like a smaller caliber bullet on that armor made sense than getting, its bell rung by getting up close point break range by a double barrel.
Yeah, the guns
like that made sense to me.
It's bulletproof suit. I get it. But there were just a couple things. I have one more I want to share. Now this one is a big one, and I really need some help with this one, Jett, because I shared this with Tyler, and I still haven't really read a good response. Bill, is this the Batman version of Raiders of the Lost Ark? And by that, I mean, Indy didn't really contribute much to the progression of the plot or anything that happens in Raiders. Is that same issue here with the Batman?
No, I never thought that about Raiders of the Lost Ark, actually.
Oh man, you just shattered that. He's like, I need to go watch that now. Like, good job, Chase.
I think it's Batman's front and center. Batman is the movie. Yeah, it all revolves around him. And he is. And
I think where this starts is, like, I want to watch a movie where Batman saves the day and he stops the bad guys and nothing bad happens. Like, this was really disturbing to me. I don't feel like Batman like won or stopped the plan. And I know he, like, we're watching this coming of age of Batman, and maybe a few less people died, but I just feel like, man, I didn't want to see him be one step behind or like not stop these plans. It was hard to watch. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, man, Batman, do something, do something, do something.
I thought the detective thing was brilliant. I thought when he was able to figure out that tool, the carpet tool, that they focus in on the very beginning when the Riddler kills the mayor.
Yep.
And that becomes a centerpiece of him. He clicks when he's in that, he goes back into the apartment. And he's looking for, like, did I miss something? And then he finds out, they tear up the carpet, and he realizes that there's that he's going to try to take out the city. I like the fact that, Batman took down the Riddler. Batman took down the Riddler goons. But
I think that's a more accurate statement. The Riddler turned himself in.
Because he wanted to, and there was part of that. He wanted to be.
With Batman watching it all happen.
Yes. Because he had that coming. And but trying to destroy the city, there was something like with Batman, it was like, I would expect him to, said it before, if this had been a 90s or a Batman film, he would have done something. He would have had some kind of vehicle or something where he could have gone and plugged all the, took out
I have the bat sponge. It's going to suck up all the water.
He could have took out the bombs, or he could have, fixed the levees, and the water would have been dammed up. But this, he couldn't stop that.
Yeah.
But it serves that the reason, with Gotham becoming flooded, it serves that purpose of him completing his arc and becoming a hero for Gotham. And also, and this is something Matt Reeves talked about, is also it is that things aren't ever going to be great in Gotham.
Yeah.
Batman will never completely save the day and save Gotham. So if you think it is going to happen, well, just wait. And then something, that was even the purpose of the Joker scene, was that, because that when I saw it, I was like, okay, that's cool, but you really didn't need it. And then I saw it the second time after Matt Reeves had talked about it, that he left it in there because he wanted to give a sense. It's not like the Joker card moment in Batman Begins, but it was a sense that, okay, you think things were bad, things can get a lot worse, and it's part of the world building for this universe as well.
And another thing, Ty, and I'll get to you in just a second. Ty's like biting his tongue hardcore. Like, I also like seeing a more benevolent Bruce Wayne, and this was hard. Again, it was so like hard to watch and disturb. Like, I want to see a Bruce Wayne who is giving and maybe is a little bit of a jerk.
He's not there yet, man.
I know, but if this is what it takes
Yeah.
to get with Mayor Real, is that how you pronounce her name? Real?
Yes.
To
Bella
get with
Real.
her to help, really kind of fix the city and do so. Like, I think I'm going to like this. If there is a second Batman, I'm going to enjoy the movie a little more because I see a little more of Bruce, of him affecting the city and the other persona that he has as this.
Neither Bruce Wayne or Batman were fully formed.
Yes.
In this movie.
Yes. Ty, that's is this, do you like seeing Bruce Wayne like this?
It's different. It's because, like you said, you want to see, but looking at this as the growth, I'll tell you one thing that really helped me, that I knew inspired, is I reread all the Earth One books. If you've read Batman Earth One, you can definitely see a lot of the characterization being taken from those books, and even some of the other things in the film. And in that is kind of very similar, where Bruce is such the mission, and he's not relying on the fact that he is a Wayne. And I think, one of the lines in this film is about the renewal fund had no one overseeing it. And now I think we are at a point where Bruce he needs to step in as Bruce Wayne, as well as he needs to step up as Batman. And he's learning what it really takes for him to help save the city is both. And I heard someone say that The Batman is the sequel to a movie I've never seen, or a prequel to a movie I can't wait to watch. And I thought that was a very interesting way of wording something. And I want character growth. So I'm trying to take it in, like, once again, how can we do these characters that we've seen so many times? I don't want to say put a new spin on it, but put them in a place where we haven't yet seen them and have the hope that they're going to get to where we want them.
I would agree that you had to do something different in this film than what we've seen, or it'd just be like a rehash. And this definitely wasn't a rehash, even though it does have the DNA of what came before. And that's a good thing. I keep going back to that arc. It's just, it really moved me, even because Bruce changed as well. I mean, that holding Alfred's hand in the hospital and not wanting to lose anybody he cares about again. He's acknowledging for the first time that he has feelings and he cares about someone else.
Yeah.
And he's not a hollow vessel. And the thing about the city at the end, I wanted to say, like with the flood, it's kind of like the city being washed clean for whatever comes next, or just kind of like it's a way of tearing down the city to then rebuild. Not only is Batman rebuilding himself, but like the whole city has a turn of what we can change and build better. And it's a very, I had another point and I totally lost it, but
because that was such a good point. The whole cleansing, that was such a good point. That's
the Matt Reeves talked about the Riddler with his friend in Arkham, was it gave kind of closure to the Riddler's arc. It helped show where he is now, and the fact, like they say, about a comeback story. And I love the fact that none of the major villains die.
Yeah.
Like the Riddler, he's still out there. So we could see a more formed Riddler appear again, because Paul Dano without the mask was amazing. With the mask, he was good, but it was such a detachment. But when he was just in the cells, and I was like, that is so much more of what I could see be the Riddler, that I look forward to the possibility of what comes next. And I haven't thought about that, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, well, we have a few minutes left here. Jett, what would you like to see out of the? There hasn't been an official Batman 2 announcement yet, has there?
Not official, but it's happening. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it would not make sense not to. Just
so, what would you like to see, or what have you heard that could be like?
Here's how I answer those questions. I'm a believer that whatever story they want to tell, you come up with the story, and then we'll see what characters, including villains, fit. If we do it the other way around, you're getting back to the 90s stuff. So, okay, we're going to have Catwoman and the Penguin in this movie, and then we're going to build a movie around it. We're going to have Two-Face and the Riddler in this movie, and we're going to build a story around it. So I think that the HBO Max shows, we're going to help flesh out the world. Matt Reeves has said, like with this Arkham show, that it will we're not necessarily going to see the origins of Batman classic villains, but we kind of may see a few in their primitive stages.
Quilt Man, I know you love a good Quilt Man.
Crazy quilt, sir. Crazy quilt.
Sorry.
So it doesn't mean that we're going to see them in the sequel, but they are there in that world that they're building. So wherever it goes, I'm anxious to see how Bruce Wayne is in the second. I'm anxious to see how Batman is grown as well after the events of the Batman. So yeah, I'm wherever they want to take it.
Did the flood knock out the Batcave?
That'll be interesting to see.
We don't know.
Don't know.
Because we don't know exactly where the proximity of where Wayne Tower is compared to, because like it's like the multiple islands. It kind of left it ambiguous. So I think we can kind of like explore where we want to in the next
Wayne Tower could be like in Brooklyn compared to the flood took place in Manhattan. So
yeah.
Right.
If that'll be something to address. And if it did, and Batman has to start over, that would be fine. So the mansion, there was no Wayne Manor. That was the orphanage. I will say, did y'all read the prequel novel?
I went to buy it because I heard like it's better to read it after seeing the film. It was sold out on Amazon. I've been to Walmart. I've been to Target. It's sold out. I ordered it on Amazon, so whenever they get it back in stock, I'll have it.
I didn't know there was a prequel book. So there's a book.
There's a prequel book, and it's like young adult targeted to like teenagers, young adult types, but it's a great read, and it really you don't need it to see the Batman, but it doesn't fill in, it enhances the story. You find out a lot more about Bruce Wayne. You find out a lot more about Edward Nashton.
Okay.
Cool. In that book. And
check that out.
Like Wayne Manor, why it was an orphanage. And it was, well, I don't want to, if you're going to read the book, I don't want to spoil it for you. It got burned down. So
yeah.
Someone burned it down, and I won't tell you who did it.
All right, cool. Ty, what's your pitch us Batman 2?
Oh, okay. Here's just points on what I want. Snow, because I love the look of this Gotham. I've always loved Gotham in the winter. And I would just like, kind of like showing a progression of time. Like this one's rain. Give me snow in Gotham. Okay.
It is November.
The second thing is I want Harvey Dent. I'm not saying Two-Face. I mean, I don't even care like if you make like Two-Face in the movie 4 or whatever, but I want a whole movie of just Harvey Dent. I mean, we killed off Gil. So there is that.
Well, yeah, I was going to bring that up with talk about sequels. I mean, there's an opening for Harvey Dent to become DA. So,
and I want Harvey, at least
I'm with you. I would like to see it for over a couple of films,
Yes. I want to see Harvey work. Because if we already had that tight relationship we got in this with Batman and Gordon, could you imagine having Harvey in that same manner of the three of them working a whole film before even exploring Two-Face?
Really build that like turn, that character turn, heel turn.
Take our time. The other thing I want in the second one, even if it's just a scene of him in his cell, the Riddler to piece together that Bruce Wayne is Batman, to have that epiphany to where he hates Batman, he hates Bruce Wayne, but now what he hates is the same person. And even if it's like just a scene of him sitting in his cell, he puts it together. I think to see Paul Dano act that out and create that moment would be amazing. And then the last thing I'm going to throw out, because I think there's seeds in this for that. And in this, the movie has a great way of blending reality, but still touching on the comic book just enough, is I'm interested to see what Matt Reeves would do with a Robin. Because I want to see Batman and Robin, a real Batman and a real Robin on screen as a working partnership. And I think Reeves could do it. I think Reeves can do it. If anyone that's directed recently any I think Reeves has the passion for the characters and this skill of bringing his characters together. Yeah, that I think he could do it.
I mean, I think Robin's central to Batman. We haven't really seen Robin on film in 30 some years. I mean, whether you take the Rises as Robin or not, but like a traditional Robin, it's been a minute. Maybe not 30 years. That's a little far. But yeah, you know, I am excited to see a sequel. I am really excited to see the Penguin series, HBO Max, and the Arkham series. Like I said, I just really enjoying the world that Matt Reeves has created. Not my absolute favorite Batman. I do want to watch it again, not in theaters, but looking forward to that HBO Max release next month. And I've also enjoyed this conversation. Jett, Ty, thank you so much for coming on my podcast to talk about Batman. I love talking Batman. I love talking Batman with you guys. So thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you.
That does it for this episode of the Chase Smith podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to our sponsor, Shart.com. T-shirt frames, so good. Some call it shirt art. It's Shart. Promo code Chase at checkout to save $5. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Follow us online at Press Play Pods. Visit our website at pressplaypodcast.com to keep up with all of our shows and network news. Jett, plug something, man. Where can we listen, read, catch all of your Batman work? Because it's the best. Literally, it's the best. It's the best.
The core thing is the website, batman-on-film.com. And then from there, you can find the podcast and whatever else. We cover Batman. I mean, it's Batman on film. I was in my wheelhouse for this movie. That's what my main thing. But yeah, we cover comic book reviews. We cover animation. I mean, whatever. If it's Batman, we'll cover it and just check it out.
Love it. Ty, what's coming up with the Krypton Report, brother?
Check us out, Krypton Report. We're, all things DC with a stronger focus on Superman is how I put it. And, find us on anywhere, social media, Twitter, and now part of Press Play Podcast Network. So that's exciting.
Love it. Jett, thanks for responding to my bat signal. I really appreciate it, man. You guys have a great week. We'll talk again.
All right. Thank you.